Hey everyone, it's Jess. Today is Thursday the 3rd of June. Let me just check. Oh no, it's Thursday the 4th of June. And today I'm back with another care video, this time on an Anthurium. And I think this is actually the first Anthurium care video I've done. So guys, what I have here is my Anthurium Watermaliense, and guys, you'll be very pleased to know that this is actually a really easy grower. I guess this video I wanted to do it because Anthuriums I think are becoming even more popular these days. In fact, we see a lot of Anthuriums, particularly in Australia. You see a lot of the velvety Anthuriums increasing in their popularity. I wanted to do a care video on the Anthurium Watermaliense just to show everyone that not all Anthuriums are hard to look after, and in fact this is a very easy Anthurium to take care of. So guys, if you're wanting to get into Anthuriums but am a little bit nervous in terms of caring for the Anthuriums, I'd recommend maybe starting off with an Anthurium Watermaliense or an Anthurium Brownie Eye. That's another Anthurium that I have, which I find to be super easy to take care of. I know that when I first made the leap into Anthuriums, it was quite nerve-wracking for me because it was this new shiny species of plant that everybody was getting super excited for, and they have such amazing foliage, and I just didn't know whether or not I could take care of one. So I thought I'd do this video to help those who are wanting to get into Anthuriums but are just not too sure about where to start. I thought I'd start with the Anthurium Watermaliense. And also guys, I thought I'd feature I thought I'd just show everybody this creepy hand that I realized I was super excited about in yesterday's live video. So this is the creepy hand that I was referring to yesterday. He's just this teeny hand that I've got hanging around. You'll probably see him throughout the video when I do close-ups of the plant, but I thought I'd just bring you out and show everyone. The Anthurium Watermaliense that has these amazing long stems. Its leaves, their veining is not as pronounced as some of the other Anthuriums, such as the Anthurium crystallinum or the Anthurium clinervium, but these guys do have a lot of veins in their leaf. These plants are grown mainly for their foliage, which looks like this. It looks like a spade. It really reminds me of the spades in a pack of cards, and it's grown for their flowers, which come off as quite a dark purple, almost a black color, which actually gives this Anthurium another name as the black Anthurium, because its flowers can emerge at quite a dark color, almost a black color. This Anthurium is of course one of almost 1,000 species of Anthurium, and I really only just came across that when I was doing my research today. But guys, that's crazy, right? That family, the Anthurium family, has about 1,000 different species of Anthuriums within it. The Anthurium Watermaliense originates from Central America, mainly from Costa Rica to Colombia. It lives in the rainforest. These guys do grow well in soil and grow well on rocks and hanging from other plants. This is an epiphyte, so it's quite good at growing in different locations. This plant does have roots which sort of protrude a little bit higher out from the soil. Healthier roots are a nice thick furry white color. Of course, I'm not going to I won't be able to show you those roots from my plant yet because I'm in my bedroom and I'm probably not going to unpot my plant here, but it's got these really nice thick white roots, which is typical for a lot of Anthuriums. I really like the Watermaliense because it's got these beautiful shaped leaves that we see in mature Watermaliense. Like these leaves, the little lobes on its leaves become even more pronounced, and I just think it's such a fascinating shape. And definitely it's just a bonus that this Anthurium is so easy to take care of. It's healthy leaves, it's got a nice glossy sheen to it, so unlike some of the velvet Anthuriums out there, you don't need to be too worried about damage to its leaves, because these leaves are a little bit more robust and waxy. I think this is a really good beginner Anthurium to take care of, kickstart your collection. It is also a very generous grower, so this guy can grow quite quickly. I got my plant in February this year and I think it's doubled in size. This is one of its new leaves that have come up, and in fact this new leaf just came out recently, so even though it's nearing winter, this guy's still giving me growth. And I keep my plant outdoors under the veranda, so it's not like I'm keeping him in a greenhouse or a very controlled environment. This Anthurium is toxic to cats and dogs, so just be mindful if you do have pets, because it is toxic if your pet nibbles on it. So getting into the care tip, guys, this Anthurium, like most Anthuriums, like bright, indirect or filtered light. This Anthurium can take more shadier locations than other indoor plants. Or where I keep my plant, it sits under the veranda and it gets about 3 hours of bright morning sunlight. Another way to provide a sheltered location for him is if you do have a shade cloth, you can create an area that is covered by a shade cloth, which also provides the perfect lighting for this plant. In terms of watering this plant, as it's winter, so I water him once every week, but when it was summer, I was watering him about once every 3 to 4 days, just by checking his soil to see if it's dried out or not. I do keep a bit of sphagnum moss over the base of the plant, and the reason why I haven't got it covering the entire plant is because I ran out of sphagnum moss, but I would ideally put sphagnum moss around the base of the plant. This is to help the soil retain the moisture. When you come across information that says to keep your plant in some moist soil, I think the trick there is to keep your plant in a well draining soil mix, but you might want to put a bit of mulch or sphagnum near the base of the plant just so the water doesn't evaporate quickly, because you don't want to create moisture in the soil by constantly watering the plant, because that is almost a guaranteed way to harm your plant by overwatering, and particularly with Anthuriums, root rot is a concern. In terms of soil, I know I touched on that a little bit earlier, but I keep this guy in quite a generous mix of orchid bark, perlite and organic potting mix. It is quite well draining, standard soil mix that I give for all my tropical plants. I also keep him in a terracotta pot, because one thing I've learned from just the year of owning houseplants is I do believe in the power of terracotta pots to wick away excess moisture and also to allow air to get its roots. In terms of fertilizing for this plant, it's recommended to fertilize this plant to encourage growth. So during summer, I would fertilize him once every fortnight with a diluted fertilizer, and I will just go and fertilize him after I've given him a water. In the winter months, I don't fertilize this plant, just to give him a break. It doesn't look like he needs fertilizer because he's still growing. In terms of temperature for this plant, ideal temperatures for this plant is between 18 to 26 degrees, again mimicking its natural rainforest habitat. However, this plant can tolerate cooler temperatures, and in fact I have been keeping him outdoors, although I am considering bringing him in when it gets to the height of winter. It gets to about lows of 10 degrees at the moment in Sydney, and I think that's the lowest I'm going to allow him to be kept outside. This plant is not frost tolerant, so for those who are in the northern hemisphere, remember to bring this plant indoors over winter. In terms of maintenance for this plant, one of the things I should do for him is to give him a moss pole, because you can see that he's sort of bending over from the weight of his leaves. So you do want to be able to give him something to support his weight and also to support the growth. So in order to help this plant grow, it does need to be supported physically. So giving him a moss pole is something that will just help him feel that little bit more supported. I'm sorry I'm like holding on to this hand. In terms of propagating, this plant is propagated through division. So when this plant gets a lot bigger, you can unpot him and then separate him at the root. The plant is still too small to be propagated, but I'm sure when the time comes I could probably create a lot more plants from this one. In terms of pests for this plant, based on the research, mealybugs and spider mites are pests for Anthuriums as well as root rot. However, I've had this plant for about 4 to 5 months now, and I haven't actually seen any pests around him. He's quite resilient because, again, I'm keeping him in the great outdoors. He's exposed to the elements, but he seems to be doing quite fine. Caterpillars are also not a concern for this plant. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this Anthurium encourages you to start your Anthurium collection if you're feeling a little bit unsure about whether or not to get into Anthuriums. The Anthurium Watermaliense is a very easy Anthurium to take care of. I'd highly recommend him because he also gives these beautiful foliage, and he's a very striking plant, isn't he? I was just admiring him in the camera and I was like, he is such a beautiful plant. So guys, if you do have any questions, please let me know in the comments below or drop me a DM on jessypotplants. I know I've been a little bit quiet on Instagram just because work's been a little bit busier, but the long weekend's coming up, so I'm going to be responding to everyone. But otherwise guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!